Hey everybody, Coach Hughes here with another Be Best You podcast. The idea is to be a leader in life, at work, your family, with your friends. You have to be the best version of yourself. And the tagline actually adding to the logo for next year is everybody else is taken, so try not to be somebody else. And I'm really excited to have on this episode Joey Coleman. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, Coach, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And thanks to everybody who's listening in today to our conversation. Super excited for it.
Yeah, and I think the people that know me and that will hopefully watch this and beyond that, they'll know that I'm very passionate about these two subjects here. And these are two of your books here: How to Never Lose a Customer, and also ever How to Lose an Employee. And while they're both different books, I think that there is absolute connections there, and I'm sure we're going to make those connections. I did though, in talking before, I was like, I'd like to kind of really spend a little more time on the customer piece, but a lot of keeping your customers is keeping employees. I mean, if you do that,
Totally.
your customers will stay. But there's some other things in the book. What I also liked about your books were, and interestingly enough, I bought this one, um, and I didn't know it was used, and I have to tell you. So you throughout the book you have a little surveys and questionnaires, and I'm not sure who this person was, but I don't have to write it out because they already wrote the answers in.
They
So this,
already filled in the answers. I
yeah,
love
so
it.
this is a used book. I didn't realize that until I read it, but they
I love
they
it.
they only got to 3 chapters. So
And then they went off and they were
yeah,
implementing. So
yeah.
they just didn't
So
have a chance to finish the rest. I love it.
yeah, I'm like, thanks for appreciate that. But how about a little bit of background on yourself? Like what led you to this career and actually authoring both of these books?
Well, sure, John. So for the last 20 years, I've helped to teach companies and organizations around the world how to keep their customers and keep their employees. And the way I got there was a crazy circuitous route. I've had what I think is an insanely eclectic career. I studied government international relations in college. I went to law school where I studied national security law, litigation, and international law. I worked for the United States Secret Service. I worked for the White House Office of Counsel to the President. I worked for the Central Intelligence Agency. I did business consulting for Fortune 500 companies. I was a criminal defense lawyer for many years. I taught at the postgraduate level. I started and ran an ad agency, branding, customer experience agency for 15 years. And for the last decade or so, I've been a full-time speaker and writer. Now, what's interesting about this is somebody might hear that list, Coach, and say, geez, Joey can't hold down a job. This is ridiculous. But the reality is, in each of those roles, the way you succeeded was by having a keen understanding of the human condition. Why do humans do the things they do? And what can we do to convince, persuade, or encourage them to do the things we'd like them to do? When I was a lawyer, convince a jury to keep my guy out of prison. When I was a business consultant, help the companies I was working, convince them that my strategy for how they might sell more widgets was useful. When I was, working in the classroom, convince my students to do the homework, that kind of thing. And so by connecting all of these things, I realized that at the end of the day, the ultimate differentiator, whether we're talking about customers, employees, coworkers, colleagues, our significant other, our children, is the experience that we create for people. So, like I said, for 20 years, it's been all about experience and how experience connects to ongoing retention and engagement.
Well, so I'm with a brand called Jersey Mike's, and I was with it when it was still Mike Subs. And back in the 70s and 80s, the owner bought it when he was a senior in high school. He was the third owner. But what was interesting was, you can kick a stone and hit a sub shop and get a slice of pizza or a bagel around here. And we did 1,000 of whole subs a day in the summer season, where you had 15, 20 other shops doing 15 or 20, 30 subs a day, maybe a little more. And what I tell people is, we all got the bread from the same bakery. We all got the produce from the same place. You didn't have the big delivery places. And they always ask, well, what was different about us? And one of the taglines we had before the new ones came out was experience, the word experience. And the second word was it. And the it part is the hard part, to the tangible part,
Yeah.
not intangible part, but the experience piece was what is the hardest thing for people to grasp, meaning everybody served the same food we did. They had better locations, they had more parking, and we had this little tiny sub shop, and we outsold them tenfold because of how we made the customer feel. But a lot of that had to do with how Peter, the owner of our company, made us feel.
Yes.
Because when we felt the way we made, because it was a very special place to get a job here in our town, we treated the guests the way we were being treated, and it was a secret sauce, but um, people just don't get that today.
They
And the
don't.
experience.
They don't. And it's really interesting. My first book was called Never Lose a Customer Again. My newest book is called Never Lose an Employee Again. And people look at those two things and they say, Joey, why did you switch ideas? Why did you walk away from it? And it's like, folks, I'm not switching focus or switching intentionality or expertise or area where I practice. I'm telling you about the other side of the coin. See, customer experience and employee experience are two sides of the same coin. If we improve one, we improve the other. You walk into a Jersey's Mike's, you're feeling good about the experience the employees are creating for you. You're going to be a happy customer. Happy employees equals happy customers. We've all had the experience, not at a Jersey Mike's, but at a different location of a quick serve restaurant where we walk in and the employees seem like they hate being there.
Right.
And before we even taste the food, we know it's not going to taste as good.
Yeah.
Why? Because we've already sullied the experience by the way we've interacted with the team. Now, don't get me wrong, the product's got to be high quality. You've got to have a good product. But the difference between good and great often isn't the product. It's the experience of using the product, of experiencing the service, of interacting with the employees and the team members. That's what makes a relationship or an interaction remarkable. And that's what keeps people coming back for more.
Yeah, in the employee book, you kind of talk about making experiences for your employees beyond just pay and all that. And one of the things I found in my career is that we're asking an entire generation, especially young people, let's say 20 to 30, let's use that demographic right now,
Okay.
who are being asked to deliver something that many of them have never experienced before. And I just use pulling chairs out for people, holding doors. Um, today it's all about convenience and speed and order accuracy and more of what I call the service side of the business. And what I'm trying to get people to or train them is how do you deliver something that you've never experienced yourself? And a big thing I recommend them is if you want an employee who's never eaten at Ruth Chris to deliver a Ruth Chris experience, don't tell them, don't show them, don't have somebody else tell them. Pay them to go to Ruth Chris. Um, that's the best teacher right there is the experience itself, right?
Coach, you're so right. I mean, it's very difficult to ask our employees to deliver a customer experience for which they have no context.
Yeah.
Quick story. Years ago, a company hired me and they said, Joey, we want you to come and do a workshop for our company. They were in the commercial real estate space. And they said, we want you to teach our people how to deliver Ritz-Carlton, first class, white glove service. I said, okay. And the CEO was very adamant on the planning call. No, Joey, it's Ritz-Carlton, first class, white glove service. I said, okay. So we show up for the day-long workshop. I said, well, everybody is super excited to be here. Before we get started, I've got a couple questions. I'm going to ask a question. I'd like you to raise your hand if this applies to you. How many of you have ever spent the night at a Ritz-Carlton? The CEO proudly raised his hand. The head of sales raised their hand. The CFO didn't raise her hand. She was like, do you know how expensive it is to stay at the Ritz? No, we don't stay there. And none of the team members raised their hand. I said, okay, great. Next question. How many of you have ever flown first class? CEO raises his hand again. Head of sales raises their hand. CFO actually raises her hand and she's like, but it was on an upgrade. I didn't pay for it. No one else raises their hand. Is that okay? Third and final question. How many of you have ever been at a meal where the wait staff delivered your meal wearing white gloves? Not a single person raised their hand.
Mm.
And I shared what I just shared with all of you. It is impossible to ask our team members to deliver an experience for which they have no context. Now, what I love about your suggestion, Coach, if you want somebody to deliver a Ruth's Chris experience, take them to Ruth's Chris. Let them have a meal there, but then take it one step further. Have them come back to the team and meet with the entire team and ask them a couple questions. What did you notice was different?
Yep.
What stood out to you? How did you feel? And then, most importantly, if there were one or two things from your experience at that restaurant, which we could bring to our restaurant, or at that business, which we could bring to our business, what one or two things would you suggest we do? This changes the conversation
Hmm.
because now they have a personal experience, a contextualization for what we're asking. And we are enrolling our team members in this idea that they are responsible for not only coming up with the experiences, but delivering on the experiences, not just following a playbook or an SOP or, our operations manual.
Yeah. So interesting. With Gaylord, Opulent Gaylord Hotel, I'm running a actually experience. Honestly, I used to just call it the Ritz experience. And what I would do was, we had maybe 100 employees. They would all wait in the lobby. I had somebody seat them. We had people pouring coffee. We had Jolly Rancher guys, and we were over the top. And at the end, everybody was like, I asked them how that make them feel weird, and I go into the Ritz Carlton. I'm making a story shorter because I want you to do as much talking here. What I ended up doing was the gentleman who was running all the banquets for the Opryland was just checking in with his customers, and he says, "Hey, what are you guys working on?" And I said, "Well, we're teaching our employees, our future managers, something that they've never experienced." And he kind of looked at me funny, and I said exactly what he said. I said, "How many people who clean your rooms actually stayed here?" And he said, "None." And I got a call back from him. God, I wish I still had that card. Uh, and he said that that hotel, that property, ever since then, everybody who works there has to stay there first. So
Mhm.
you were
I love
spot
it.
on, and I think that is so true. Uh, and then the other thing that we did was the Ritz Carlton, which I love the premise of what they're doing, and it's harder and harder for them to do it, but the idea of my pleasure. And I always ask people, as you probably do, is who started that? And everybody says Chick-fil-A. I said, oh,
No,
no.
there's a little company before that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
about ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
And the last part is what I think is neat is what my owner did. And one reason I've been with him for 40 years is I've kind of taken a liberty and putting these words into his mouth, because every time he's provided an opportunity for me, an experience, going up to see a play, staying at a nice hotel, flying first class, he always tells me to pay attention. And it's one of the things I say in my class all week. I'm like, pay it and like, pay attention to what? I go, if your eyes are open and your ears are open, you'll catch it. And I love that what you were saying there is that what did you notice? How did it make you feel? Um, and how do we bring that back to our restaurant? You don't need a valet guy. You don't need name badges. You can deliver it at any business, a tire company. You know,
Exactly. Coach, this is a game I play with my kids. So
yeah.
I've got two boys, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. And earlier this year, we had the opportunity, they travel with me sometimes on speaking gigs, and they traveled with me for about 10 days. And across those 10 days, we stayed at 3 different hotels. And all of these hotels had a pool. And my boys loved going to the pool at the hotel. So we spent time in all 3 of these hotel pools. And I told them while we were in the pool at the first location that we were going to play a little game. And the game was going to be as follows. Number one, at the end of the time, I was going to ask them to rank the hotels from most expensive to least expensive based on their perception and tell me why.
Mm,
But then part 2 of the game was, if you were the manager of this hotel and you had to make this hotel better, what would you do? And the answers I got were fascinating. One of my sons said, well, Daddy, why did they stop painting the pool halfway? And you could see that they had painted the side of the pool and then just quit. It was like haphazardly done. It wasn't completely finished. I was like, that's a great question. Daddy, why aren't the towels warm? Daddy, why don't they have a place where you can put the used towels after you're done instead of just leaving them on here? We've been out here for a couple hours and no one has come and picked up the towels, but they also don't have a place for us to take the towels when we go back up to our room. And
mm,
I've got my boys noticing these things, paying attention to your point, and thinking if they did these things, it would be better. I believe that you are employable in any industry on the planet if you can show up and not only figure out how to make the experience better, but then actually execute on doing that. You will never look for a job again in your life if you are that type of team member, if you're that type of employee, and you can show up and create those type of enhancements.
Yeah. There's two things that come to mind from that. You'll know both of them. And is Danny Meyer. I have a little clip. It was a little thing he did for Lexus. And when I teach people how to interact with customers in our operations, I usually use the word mining for information.
Mm,
And I'm not, the information isn't what they want on their sandwich. Their information is where they work, how they're doing, that kind of stuff.
right.
Danny Meyer blew my mind. And you may have heard this before. He said, they're in a hospitality box. And he said, what they do is they collect dots so they can connect the dots.
Mm,
And
I
I was
love
just
it.
was like,
I love it.
I was like, wow. And not just from a customer, but it's the same thing as, when you're bussing tables with one of your waiters, you can talk to them about how their day is. You're collecting little dots from that employee so that you can connect them later. And it's the same thing with our employees, as well. And then the other one, I'd love to speak to is Joseph Michelli wrote the Starbucks Experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that book blew me away. Oh no, it was sorry, what you've heard, the Experience Economy, where it talks about the coffee bean over 100 years, and 30 cents a cup to, is the coffee really that
$30 a
better?
cup. Yeah.
$5, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And people think, it's the cushy chairs, and it's the ambiance, and it's the music, and it's the fancy name. And really what Starbucks it wasn't about that at all. It was about the type of person that worked there, like Chick-fil-A and like In-N-Out Burger, those kinds of
And
people.
like Apple, the type of person who owns
Absolutely.
an iPhone versus the type of person who owns an Android, the
Yeah.
type of person that walks around with white earphones in their ear, as
Mhm.
opposed to the industry standard black earphones in
Yeah.
their ear. It's not that any of these things are good or bad. It's just be clear about the type of customer you want to have, the type of customer you want to attract, the type of customer you want to serve. Because
Yeah.
when we get clear on that and we create affinity around our customers actually become our raving fans. They become our advocates. They can spot each other in the wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like about both books is you support all this stuff with um, hard data, a lot of research, and some of it is even some studies, some case studies. Whether it be Southwest or what's one of the ones you did in the there was I think it was like a plumbing company, a plumbing.
Yeah, there's a couple different ones. So to give you context for those of you who may not have read the book, my customer experience book has over 46 case studies from all kinds of industries. My employee experience book, I wanted to take it to the next level. So we have over 50 case studies from all 7 continents in every industry imaginable. And the one I think you're referring to, Coach, is there's a plumbing company that was looking to hire new young plumbers to become apprentices,
Yeah.
and so that they could train to become plumbers. And with all due respect to all of our friends in the plumbing industry, we don't necessarily think of plumbers as being, a high level recruiting job where you're like, oh, let's go find the best talent in the world to become a plumber. That's not me judging plumber. We have a huge plumber shortage. We need plumbers more than ever before, right? But this team decided we're going to treat this a little differently. So they had a high school student who had decided that he wanted to go on and become an apprentice with his local plumbing company.
Mm.
And so they held a signing day ceremony for him. Now, if anybody's familiar with the world of college sports, lots of times young high school athletes, when they're graduating from high school and they're getting ready to go to college and they've got a scholarship, they'll have a signing day ceremony at their school with a banner, and maybe it's a couple hats in front of them. Which school is it going to be? And they put on the hat of the team that they're going to join, and their parents open their shirts and they've got the t-shirt on or the sweatshirt of the team they're joining. They did the same thing, but for a plumbing company. Now, what this did is it immediately raised the status of that young man who was becoming the plumber. It
Mm-hmm.
immediately brought attention and focus to that business in that community that they approached things differently. They thought differently, they acted differently. And it brought attention to the school to recognize, if we're going to celebrate an athlete for getting a scholarship, why aren't we celebrating a young person that's decided that they want to enter the trades and become a plumber? There's an opportunity to celebrate every employee in every industry if we're willing to give it that level of intentionality.
Well, and again, I mean, I'm going to switch back to there, but you made me think about something that I really loved, and I actually used it. Once I got your book, I've been using a couple of these things the last. So I have a 5-day class, and we just had 3 of them in a row. And two things was the differences between onboarding and orientation, and then the tenure of that. So 100 days, 100 day. Let me see if I get this right. You your orientation is 100 days. Your onboarding is maybe that day. Is that correct?
Well, what I often think about it is people confuse the concept of orientation and
Yeah.
onboarding. With orientation, they're doing things like, oh, here's when we expect you to be at work. This is what we want you to wear. The bathrooms are over there. The fire extinguishers over there. The reason this is not onboarding is because it's basically a brief glimpse into a couple of things that we think is enough. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what's fascinating is you get that same level of brief glimpse if you go on a cruise. They tell you, here's where you get the food, here's the dress code, here's where the fire extinguisher is. That's not onboarding. Onboarding is inviting in a new employee using a designed series of interactions that are created for the purpose of a warm, welcoming experience. So we're inviting people in. We're taking them through a systemized, structured approach that is designed to leave them feeling like they're part of the team. Now, the research also shows, Coach, that more than 50% of the companies in the world spend less than 1 week onboarding their people.
Yeah.
Less than 1 week. I don't know about you, Coach, but I want people to stay longer than a week. If you want them to stay longer than a week, you got to be willing to invest more than a week with them. And that's where we come to the first 100 days. The research shows that the majority of employees will leave in the first 100 days. Hourly employees, 50% of hourly employees quit before the 100-day anniversary. 50%. That's no way to run a business. In the quick service industry, quick serve restaurant industry, I think the average annual turnover across the entire industry is about 144%. These numbers are staggering. Why? Because most businesses are like, let's get you trained up for a day or two, then throw you into the deep end and good luck. Start making some sandwiches, start flipping some burgers, start doing the thing. We're just not making the investment in our people that we need to make. Last thing I'll say about the research is the research also shows that on day 101, if you are loving the experience, if you're feeling bought in, you're feeling committed, the typical employee will stay for a minimum of 3 years. And this also applies on the customer side. The typical customer, if on day 101 is feeling well taken care of, well provided for, they're enjoying the feeling of being a customer, the typical customer will stay for 5 years. I'm not asking you to sprint every day for years.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to focus on 100 days of onboarding to lay the proper foundation for a long-term relationship.
And that leads into the other thing, which I really loved how you kind of laid out there, is the difference between an employee being an asset or an employee being an investment. And I couldn't agree with you more, because I think, you know, if you're like, so right away when I brought it up, 100-day orientation, onboarding, right away, people like, I know what they were thinking right away. What do you mean? I mean, they're training. I said, no. Onboarding isn't training the whole time. There's skills.
And it shouldn't be training all the time. Forgive me for interrupting, Coach. This is the problem. A lot of folks are like, oh, well, let's train them all day, every day for a week or two. No. No one wants to do that. Yeah. Not the new onboarding employee, not even the trainer who's doing the training wants to do it all day. We've got to give people some pacing. We've got to quit trying to jam a fire hose in their mouth and get them to know everything they need to know as quickly as possible. What we need to do is start caring about each team member as a human, not as a resource, right? We talk about human resources. We have a tendency to focus on the resource more than the human part of that equation.
Yeah, I mean, and our employees are our customers. We need them to buy into what we're doing every day. So, that's why the parallels are so similar. it's strikingly similar, really, and how we don't pay attention to we put the customer ahead of our employees too often, and I think they should be equal easily, and maybe even employees and a little bit more important. And what I do is I talk about the three lines of business, and one of the little activities I say, when sales go down, what's the first thing companies do? They cut labor. And then do sales go up? And they don't. So in order to get the sales up, they market, which drives labor. I mean, which drives food costs. At the end of the day, the bottom line is it's predictable to drop. And what we say is invest in labor right away. They're like, what do you mean, add more people? I said, I never said that. I
Right.
said, invest in your people. And it could be sending them to the Ritz Carlton for a weekend so that they understand what it feels like to have a door held for them rather than a manager saying, well, hold that door, smile, be nice to people. Um, I
Coach,
see
the
that.
investment in the people could just be caring about the people.
Yeah.
It doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be a monetary investment. We can talk about an emotional investment or an attitudinal investment.
Yeah.
To me, there's a difference between a coworker and a colleague. A coworker is someone that when they come in on Monday, you say, "How was your weekend?" A colleague is someone that when they come in on Monday, they say, "Hey, how was your sister's birthday party?" They know what you were doing. And they know what you were doing because I had a conversation with you last week when they said, "Hey, buddy, what's up this weekend?" "Oh, I'm going to my sister's birthday party." "Oh, really? Where's that? What's going to be going on?" And we care about people as individuals.
Mm.
I know no human on the planet, Coach, no human on the planet that doesn't want to feel like they matter. Everyone wants to feel like they matter.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to feel a level of significance, a level of importance. And one of the greatest gifts we can give someone is to let them know that they matter. And often it's as simple as taking an interest in their life, taking an interest in their family, their hobbies, their pets, their, flag football team they play on, the local community choir that they sing in, their dream vacation that they're planning to take 2 years from now and they're saving money every paycheck to get to. When we take an interest in people,
Mm.
it's a lot easier for them to take an interest in us.
Yeah. I got chills on that one too, because it's just so, I'm so passionate about that. And, because you're building relationships, obviously, there's a line that you don't cross. But I'll just give you an example. I just purchased a new vehicle, an Audi, and a certified used. And, it's a lot of money even at that. And it was a nice car. And I had purchased a nicer car, a nice car prior to that, and all the broken promises. We'll pick you up, and da da da, and it was just horrible. And when I bought this news car, I said to the salesman, I said, "Listen, I go, don't tell me you're going to do something and don't do it." I said, because then you want me to buy another car here in 3 years. Well, don't lie to me. And it's just interesting how much time, and car dealerships are good people. It just has a bad reputation sometimes. But you know, building relationships, I think, is a big part of not losing an employee, but also not losing customers. Getting to know, the old cheer song. I hate to, it's so overused, but it's so true.
It's so true. We all want to go to a place where everybody knows our name, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we want that level of personal and emotional connection. Whether you are an employee or a customer,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to quit a job than to quit a friend.
Yeah.
It's easier to quit doing business with a company than to quit doing business with a friend. And here's the thing, it doesn't take that much to be a friend. All you really need to do is, and you started our conversation with this, pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what matters to them. Pay attention to what's important to them. And where possible, celebrate those things with them. Celebrate the things that are important to them. If, you know, I have a tendency to put the fanatic in the word fan when it comes to Notre Dame football. I love Notre Dame football. I went to the University of Notre Dame. I love the football team. I've got clients who will text me and say, "Nice win this weekend." Now,
Yeah.
let's be clear. I did not play football for Notre Dame. I am not on the team. We have no connection other than I'm a fan and I
Yeah.
went to school there. But when I get a text like that, I think, "Oh, this person knows me. this person cares about me. And
Yeah.
I've got some friends that are fans of other teams, and we spar a little bit. Oh, you guys are going to have a tough game with us this weekend. And then
Mm.
one of us, who, whoever loses, texting the other, hey, you played a good game anyway, we'll get you next year. We want to be looking for points of commonality and points of polarity when we interact with other humans. What do I mean by that? A point of commonality is something that you and I share. A point of polarity is something that's important to both of us, but we have opposing beliefs around.
Hmm.
Now, I know in this day and age, we like to skew away from any semblance of interacting with someone who has a different belief than us, right? But I think that's what makes life rich. That's what makes conversations deep. You
Yeah.
can root against Notre Dame and we can still be friends because we both care about college football, or we both care about college basketball or college fencing, or whatever the sport or the game or the hobby or the sub interest or the subculture is. When we find someone that has a similar interest, a point of commonality, even if we don't agree totally and we have some polarity, there
Yeah.
can still be a bond. There can still be a friendship and a connection.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, they say you can't teach personality. And I'm like, well, mm, I think you can in a sense that, you can't force it out of people. A higher personality trains in the skill. You hear that all the time. Um, but I mean, if you look at, the losing the customer piece, one of the things that I found interesting was for our business, in this restaurant business, the customer buys 1.5 times a month. If it's coffee, it's more. And it's the average lifespan of the customer is 8 years in our niche. And if you do the math, it's kind of like $2,600 over that 8 years. And recently, I guess American Express or somebody said that it's one bad experience is 17 people hear about it. And I do this little math thing where 96% of customers don't we call it complaining.
Right.
And this idea of the cost of customer recovery when only 6 or 7 customers will even bother to come back. How do you even argue? Why would you want to try to recover a customer that 96% aren't going to bother to come back when you should be spending it on training and your crew members to keep the ones we have? It's
Coach, you're spot on. I
um,
mean, here's the challenge. we're we're struggling between the reality of the data and the emotional feeling and the historical experience of the folks interpreting the data or trying to use or not use the data. The data is very clear across all industries.
hmm,
It costs 6 to 7 times as much to bring in a new customer than to serve an existing customer. A new customer is likely to buy from you
yep,
across all industries globally, somewhere between 10 and 15% of the time. An existing customer is likely to buy from you 60 to 70% of the time. The data, again, across all industries, very, very clear. The problem is most of the people who are responsible for these conversations are not incentivized on repeat business.
hmm,
They're incentivized on new business.
yep,
What is your year on year store growth? All we care about is, did you do more this year than you did last year? And most leaders, most franchise owners, most managers think, well, the only way to do more is to do more. We got to get more people to come in the door. We got to find more new customers. Instead of saying, what would happen if we switched them from coming 1.5 times a month
yep,
to coming 1.75 times a month? What if instead of getting them to have a sub and a soda, we also got them to buy the chips or a cookie with
yep,
it? How can we take it to the next level in the interaction? And those type of efforts work a lot better than the let's get new, let's fill the funnel. But part of the challenge is the majority of people running organizations came up through marketing and sales, not through operations and customer
yes,
service. So they've been rewarded their entire career for more, build, 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 grow, 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 instead of being rewarded for connect, 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 keep, keep, keep. And
yeah,
that fundamental disconnect, of course, they're going to focus more on acquisition than retention. It's what they've been rewarded for their entire careers.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even in our business, with the loyalty programs and the way technology is. I mean, I remember in the old days it used to be stamps,
Right.
and then someone would steal your stamp and they get a free sub every day. You're like, how's that? Who's that? Today at least the data is being captured, and we've found in our company. Hope I don't get in trouble for this, but about 40% of our sales right now is loyalty, and we've increased that even more. And the loyal customer buys almost one more time a month. And so
And the way that moves your bottom line, the
yeah,
way that moves your profitability, here's the thing. One more sale per month, you're already paying those people to be at work.
yep,
You're already paying that rent. You're already paying those utility bills, those food bills. So your cost of operating are already covered. The profitability on one more sale per customer per month is staggering because almost all of it goes to the bottom line
yep,
because we've already covered our base operating expenses. Yeah, this is really interesting. I will say this, though, Coach, about loyalty programs. One of the things that drives me insane about loyalty programs is how few employees know how they work. There was this place that I used to go to, a pizza place. Okay. So, not a direct competitor of anybody listening in,
yeah,
but a pizza place where I used to go. And they had a loyalty program. And the way the loyalty program worked is if you bought more than $100 in pizza, you got a $5 coupon. So pretty straightforward. The average price of a pizza there was about 20 bucks. Their theory was if you come 5 times, on the sixth time, we'll give you a 5% discount, which basically amounts to 25% off your sixth visit. But
yeah.
here's the thing. This was our go-to place when we were entertaining. So I would buy over $100 in pizza in one night,
Mm,
which would automatically trigger the $5 off the next. And I would come in with my app on my phone and say, I'm supposed to get $5 off today. And you know what happened every time, Coach? The person behind the counter checking me out at the register would go, yeah, I'm not really sure how that program works.
yeah,
I'm not really sure how to give you the discount. Hang on while I go get a manager.
yep.
And then a manager would come over and futz around on the screen for about 20 minutes and finally just go, can we just charge your card the full amount and hand you $5? Now, the first time this happened, I was surprised. The second time it happened, I was disappointed. The third time it happened, I said, why am I giving them my
Yeah,
business?
absolutely.
Right? They don't seem to appreciate it. So if you have a loyalty program, are your employees in the app? Are they using the app? Are they familiar with the app? If I hand them my phone as a customer and say, I'm in the app, what am I supposed to do? Can they quickly swipe around, press the right buttons to get to the thing that needs to be scanned? Or can they quickly show me what my point score is or how many times? The reason I like the old school stamps on the card
Mm,
is you could take a 3-year-old and
yeah,
say, how many stamps are on this card? And they'd say, 2. And you'd be like, exactly. Good job. How many do we need to fill all the spaces? 10. Good job. We understood it. Now we're not training people on the thing that we say is important, loyalty. We're not giving them the knowledge they need to actually deliver a loyal experience to our most valuable customers, the ones
yeah,
who care about the loyalty program.
yeah. It's crazy. I'm going to go here on this because so one of the concerns I see happening in the industry. Well, let me ask you this: what is one reason why companies are losing customers? Maybe I'm going to answer my own question. What I see happening is I see labor catching sales more than I see sales catching labor, meaning companies will control their labor at whatever percent. Managers will do that to not lose their bonus. When I leave, I don't go back to places. It could be good food, it could be great atmosphere, but if I have to wait too long or the customers, the employees behind the line are overstressed, I won't go back. Um, I am doing my darndest to convince a lot of people that adding more people is going to increase labor at first, but if you add the right people doing the right things, sales will catch up. So, is there any data out there that can kind of prove that when you invest in labor the right way, sales will follow rather than controlling labor because sales will follow that as well.
Well, let's even look at the language we're using, Coach.
Yeah.
Controlling labor.
Yeah.
Now, I understand why you use that phrase, and I understand why that phrase is used internally,
Yeah.
but we're thinking of it as a resource, not as a human. I had an experience the other day that I think speaks to this. I don't know that you can live in North America, or frankly, anywhere in the world at this point, but certainly in North America, and walk into a quick serve restaurant, or what some people call a fast food restaurant, or even a fine dining restaurant, and not feel that the staff is overworked
Yeah.
and understaffed. It's ubiquitous across the entire industry.
Yep.
And I would like to juxtapose two experiences I've had in the last 2 weeks on this topic. Experience number one, I walk into a place and there is a sign typed in all caps, pasted to the cash register that says, "We're hurrying as much as we can. Stop complaining." Juxtapose that sign to a sign I saw last week in another quick serve restaurant. That as I opened the door, there was a sign on the door that said, and I'm reading this because I took a photo of it, "The whole world is short staffed. Please be kind to those who showed up."
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, I love the second sign.
Yeah.
I love the second sign because it acknowledges the reality. It's the elephant in the room. We all know that every restaurant is short staffed. But what they're doing here is they're saying, don't take it out on the people who are here. And that is such a different positioning. It's a positioning that leads from a place of empathy. To come back to your question, Coach, I totally agree with you. If you are trying to control or manage labor cost by saying, how few people can we have on this shift to still meet a standard of getting the orders produced in an amount of time, even if it means customers have to wait a little bit longer, versus saying, what is the smoothest, most efficient, most effective experience we can create, even if that means we've got to pay a half a person to be here for this shift, because that's really what we're usually talking about. A half a person is enough. Now, some of you are saying, Joey, we don't hire a half a person, but anybody who's in this knows what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Or one extra person. You will make that up in experience, in loyalty, in repeat sales, in increased ticket order price, because the person is having a positive experience. What always amazed me when I was running my ad agency is we'd have a recession come along or the economy come along, and people would say, oh, we got to cut our marketing. We got to cut our marketing. We can't be spending money on this stuff. And then I'd watch the smart companies that said, oh no, this is where we're going to win. We're going to grab market share right now while everybody else is cutting back. If you want your quick serve restaurant to grab market share in the environment we're in right now, put one extra employee on staff per shift. Put one more on. And here's what you do. You say to them, by the way, if you're here and there's no one to make orders for, and it's a little slow, here's some things we want you to do. Go around and make sure things are clean. Take an extra loop through the bathroom. Go and straighten the cups. Make sure that when people walk in, they're like, whoa, this place isn't like the other fast food places I'm going to where it looks like a bomb went off. This isn't like the other places where I walk through the bathroom and I'm like, my shoes might stick to the floor enough that my feet come out of my shoes. No, make it an experience to go to your place and then go to the next level. I've got a buddy that I profile in the book that runs a restaurant called Brasa Peruvian Kitchen. Okay. And Brasa Peruvian is a quick serve restaurant in Toronto. And they also now have some locations in New York that serves Peruvian food. And one of the unique things they do is every employee has an hour on their shift each week where they come to work and they are paid to be on their phone. Now, some people are like, Joey, good God, I don't want my employees on the phone while they're at work. What are you talking about? They are paid to not be in front of the customer, but to go to, kind of back a house a little bit and to look through their social media feed for friends of theirs that could be a good employee to come work at Brasa. They are incentivized to recruit on the job and to make recommendations and to reach out to a friend who on a post says, can't stand my boss, to message them and say, hey, I love my boss. Can I introduce you to my boss? We talked earlier about, and you know these numbers, but the data I have is that turnover in the industry is about 140% annually. Okay.
Mm.
Some people may say 110, 120, 130, 160. We know it's north of 100% annually
Yeah.
turnover. Okay. At Brasa Peruvian, their annual turnover is 14%.
Mm.
Stop and think about what your business could do if your turnover was 1/10 the industry average,
Mm.
how much more loyalty you could build, how much more efficiency you could get, what a better product you'd be able to provide. Because I wouldn't walk into your restaurant and every day think, has this person ever made a sandwich before? Or am I going to get to have the first one they've ever made?
Yeah.
And instead, you walk in and it's like, Joey, good to see you. Hey, Frankie, the usual Joey? Yeah, I'll take the usual. I'm on it. Don't you worry. That's the kind of place where, to your cheers analogy earlier, where everybody knows your name, where you come in and your drink, your food is ready for you the minute they see you because they know you. And if they know you, that by default means they care about you. And if they care about you, that by default means you're going to want to go back again.
Yeah, I had an experience. Three of my high school buddies, California. We had to go to my one friend's his coffee shop, which by the way he doesn't own.
Right.
And
But
we
it's
were
his. He feels a sense of ownership around because of the way he's treated, I presume.
yeah. And what happened was we were late and we were rushed and we had to park far away and we were talking about the stores. And what happened was we ended up going into one of our stores, Mike's, and I said, how many customers were there when we walked in? And they said, I didn't know. They said, we don't know. I said, 7. I go, how many customers left? And we said goodbye to when we were in there. They go, I don't know. I go, 7. How many people came in when we were there that we said, not us, the staff said hello to? And they go, I don't know. I go, none. I go, how many other coffee shops could have we went to instead of having to go to your coffee shop? And he goes, probably 3. Are you going to tell me that coffee that was that much better? And the moral of that story, to your point, is, we had to we were late. We couldn't do a drive through. I could have spent $3 less on the coffee, but we went to this guy's coffee shop. And as soon as we walked in, I went to the door first. He said, wait. He opened the door and they went, I don't want to say his name, but they were like, hey, Bobby.
Right.
And I said, guys, I go, it's not the coffee bean. It's not the ambiance. It's that they know you. Right. And,
Exactly.
and that,
And what
you know,
does your friend want to do?
he
When
wanted
his
to buy a store.
friends are when his friends are visiting from out of town,
Yeah. He take him to his coffee
he
shop.
wants to take him to his coffee shop.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why? Because humans are dying for proof that they matter. And when we find a place where we feel like we matter, where we
Mm.
feel like they value our patronage, they value us as a customer, they value us as a human, we want to go back. We want to go back again and again. We want to bring our friends with us when we go back. We want to continue to spend money with them. Folks, this is not rocket science.
Mm.
This is basic human decency. And that's the thing, with all due respect to all the, oh, and we could get AI to do it, and we could get this technology to do it, and we can hire these other people to do it, and we could train it. It's a lot simpler than that. I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to any of those things. But what I am opposed to is you thinking that those things are the solution.
Mm.
The solution is not more, more, more. The solution is better. The solution is meaningful. The
Yeah.
solution is experiential. The solution is, how do I feel when I do business with you? That's what carries the day.
And it's actually it's a perfect way. I mean, I didn't even set up perfect. I don't want to say I'm not smart to intentionally kind of have that be your last answer there, but I have just had my 5 P's. I have our purpose as a brand is our people. We have great product. If our good people with great product, if they follow the procedures, profits as a result. And again, what I've been hearing over and over and over again through research and authors like yourself is that, you know, at the end of the day, we're in the people business and it's how people feel about how they were treated, which will get them to buy a second, a third, and then tell people don't even bother going there again. And I knew when I was super excited to get you on because I just love your energy. And these are like my two most passionate things to talk about because um, one, I think they are the same. I think if anything, I would treat this guy a little better. And I'm not talking about at the cost of this person, but I see a big problem in our, oh, it's hard to find good help today. No, it's not. It's always been hard. Good help is working.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but when you make your business a place where they're appreciating the employees, they're going to appreciate the customer. Like,
Yes.
why wouldn't you invest in that line first? And the front line is where we need to put our money today.
For all too long, we have had this philosophy, and it has been purported by authors and speakers and thought leaders and business leaders of, well, the customer comes first. It only works to have the customer come first if we have the employees ready to serve them. This is not a chicken and the egg conversation. You have to have a remarkable employee experience if you want to deliver a remarkable customer experience. So while I think customers are important, if forced to make a decision, should you pay more attention to your employees or more attention to your customers? It's employees every single time. Because
Yeah.
here's the thing, let's go back to your data: 1.5 visits per month. Now, how many days are the employees there working? Oh, that would be all 31 days.
Yeah.
So we've got to have the team members. We've got to have the people supporting our brand, supporting our business before we can have any hope of delivering a remarkable customer experience.
Yeah. And it's the landscape is dotted with those who get it. When, you think of, way Harley Davidson makes their customers. I think that the stat I heard from that, I don't know if it's true, but they make more money off of merchandise, logoed merchandise than they sell motorcycles.
Correct.
Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. You look at Chick-fil-A. My favorite is In-N-Out Burger. Nothing against my West Coast friends, but one is they trick you because you can't get out of In-N-Out Burger because they curb you in. But you know, I'm a
But I will,
student of
but I will
this.
tell you, the In-N-Out Burger, it's got loyal fans. So
Oh
my
my God.
family, big fans of In-N-Out. My parents flying to California
Yeah.
yesterday. So they're on their way. They send a text message to all the siblings. I'm one of 7 kids. They send a text message to all the kids
Yeah.
and the spouses. Hey, we're on the plane headed to California. First response, not safe trip,
Yeah.
not we'll miss you, not have a good time. The very first response in the text thread is get some In-N-Out. It's the very first response.
Yeah.
Why? Because the experience is so remarkable
Yeah.
that I know dozens of people that when their plane lands in Los Angeles, the first place they go is In-N-Out.
Yep.
And then they go to their hotel or wherever they're going. And that's the thing. When you have loyal fans, when you create a remarkable experience, people keep coming back for more.
And that's not customers. That's employees. And I loved my daughter. I was a college athlete, was just unfortunately wasn't smart enough to stay in college. My daughter, though, had her signing day, and what I did after that was I recommended all our owners, managers, have a signing day for our employees, their employees as well. And one of the research that I found was what it does is it inspires the next generation. So when my daughter was picture was her signing a soccer scholarship, it was the kids, she's a senior. It was the kids in 7th and 8th grade that looked up to her. And back to why I wanted to start in our little town, the guys I looked up to growing up worked at Mike's. And
Mm.
what I try to tell everybody today is if you need to become the employer of choice in your community, and pay will um, make people curious, but your culture and the way you treat them is going to make them stay. And it's same thing with the customer, you know.
So true. So
So,
true.
well, I knew this would be. I was serious. I got a silly smile on my face. I don't know what it was, but you got the great profile picture, and then I know I heard a couple other things about you, and I think about. I'll send you the picture of it, but I got about 15 of your books of the employee books downstairs. I'm going to get those out next week. Um, definitely going to get Dan on there. Dan, right? Or the,
Yep. Dan
yeah,
Gingus.
I'll
Yep.
get him on. And but I just want to. I'll stay on if you can after. I just want to ask you one other question. But I really really appreciate you coming on. And I know people are going to get a lot out of this, and they'll get even more out of your books. So, and then your other stuff that you have as well.
Oh,
So,
Coach, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who was listening in or watching in. So appreciate you joining us for the conversation. And I wish you all the best as you go out and try to create those personal and emotional connections with your employees and your customers to take your business to the next level and to keep them coming back for more.
yeah, it's about being the best version of yourself, and you need to help other people become the best versions of themselves. So, Joey, I appreciate it, and Coach Hughes, another hopefully a positive interview, and you guys will get a lot out of it, and we'll see you next time.